At the beginning of the story, we are introduced to Harriet and her mother, Jonah. Harriet was nearly 70 years old, yet she still lived with her mother. Jonah took care of her every single day. She took her to church, fed her meals, and looked after her as if Harriet were still a little child. Years earlier, Jonah had sent Harriet's sons and daughters away from both the house and the town. But why? Be patient. The truth will slowly reveal itself. Every day followed the same routine. Jonah would take Harriet to church in the morning, prepare her food, and at night she would sing her a lullaby before putting her to bed. And there was always one thing she repeated over and over again. "You are only my daughter. No one else's. You are only my daughter." Day after day, nothing changed. Harriet's children never called her, and none of them ever came to visit. Their grandmother tried countless times to bring the family back together. But Harriet's children hated their mother. Why they hated her remained another dark mystery waiting to be uncovered. As time passed, one terrifying night, Harriet suddenly began screaming. Her cries echoed through the house. Alarmed, Jonah rushed to her side and tried to calm her down. "Everything will be all right," she whispered. "Tomorrow morning, I'll call your children and bring them here." Eventually, Harriet drifted back to sleep. But the next morning, when she opened her eyes, she discovered something horrifying. Jonah was gone. She had passed away during the night. Harriet let out a heart-wrenching scream. Now what would happen to her? Not long after, the news reached all of Harriet's children. Her eldest son, William, was a college professor. However, his wife, Liz, was struggling with serious health problems, forcing William to be extremely careful with money. He hated spending even a single dollar unnecessarily. Then there was his younger brother, Martin. Unlike William, Martin had no job. He spent his days hanging around with troublemakers and had even fallen into drug use. William constantly tried to guide him onto the right path, but Martin ignored every piece of advice. William also had a twin sister named Therese. She was still trapped in grief after the tragic death of her wife, Lydia, who had taken her own life a few years earlier. Since Lydia's death, Therese had never truly recovered, and William did everything he could to support her. He invited her to their grandmother's house as well. Finally, there was the youngest sibling, Annika. Annika lived at a church and was preparing to become a nun, but every night she was haunted by the same disturbing dream. In the dream, a young girl was trapped inside a house when a demonic entity appeared. The girl desperately tried to kill the creature, but she always failed. Who survived? The girl or the demon? Annika never found out. Every single time she woke up before the dream reached its ending. The nightmare terrified her, leaving her shaken and confused, unable to understand what it meant. Then William delivered the heartbreaking news. Their grandmother was dead. Before her death, Jonah had made one final request. She wanted Annika, and no one else, to perform her funeral rites. Silently and without objection, Annika agreed to honor her grandmother's last wish. And while her brothers and sister were on their way to the hospital to be with their mother, a far darker chapter of this nightmare was only beginning. Meanwhile, Annika was attending her grandmother's funeral. Far away from all of this, William, Martin, and Therese arrived at the hospital and were shocked to see their mother in terrible condition. It was Father Rosick who had admitted her. After Jonah's death, Harriet suddenly started screaming uncontrollably. Her horrifying cries alarmed the entire neighborhood, and the neighbors immediately called Father Rosick because Jonah and Harriet often visited him. Seeing her condition, Father Rosick rushed Harriet to the hospital and then called William. The three siblings were desperate to know what had happened to their mother, but they had no idea that the news waiting for them was about to shake their entire world. Even the doctors seemed deeply confused. William asked what was wrong with Harriet, and the doctor explained that she had suffered a stroke. At first, everyone believed she might not survive, but when the medical tests came back, the results left the entire hospital stunned. According to the reports, a 70-year-old woman had the body of a 20-year-old girl. If the doctors hadn't seen Harriet with their own eyes, they would have assumed the test results belonged to a young woman in her 20s. Hearing this, William and the others were completely bewildered. Was their mother seriously ill or not? The doctor admitted that she had never seen anything like this before. Harriet showed no signs of any disease, none at all. In fact, it appeared as if she was getting younger with each passing day. According to the test results, her biological age was now only 20 years old. The siblings stared at the doctor in disbelief. None of it made any sense. The doctor then explained that there was no medical reason to keep Harriet hospitalized because Technically, she wasn't sick. She believed the shock of Annika's grandmother's death had overwhelmed her, causing her to scream and eventually collapse. The best thing they could do was take her home and look after her. But William, Therese, and Martin had no intention of doing that. They told the doctor that their relationship with their mother had always been broken. The man Harriet had married, their father, was a terrible person. Throughout their childhood, neither of their parents cared for them. The only person who ever loved them was their grandmother. She was the one who gave them a chance at a better life, sending them away to study and build careers. Without her, they believed they would have had nothing. Years later, they received the news that their father had taken his own life. But the truth was, they felt nothing. They had no attachment to either of their parents because neither of them had ever cared enough to be there when they needed them most. After hearing William's concerns, the doctor gently tells him that the best thing he can do is stay with his mother for a few more days and take care of her. Once she gets better, you can leave, she says. With no other option, the three of them reluctantly agree. They take Harriet back home, and on the way, they start discussing what comes next. Who will stay? Who will leave? And who will handle their grandmother's funeral? Just then, Annika arrives and tells everyone that she has already taken care of the arrangements. She also suggests that they all attend church the next day to pray for their grandmother. Everyone agrees. The plan is simple. Spend one more night in the house, attend the prayer service in the morning, and then leave. If Harriet still needs help, they'll hire a nurse to look after her, but nothing beyond that. As the night goes on, everyone looks around the house, remembering how they were never truly happy there. Eventually, they all fall asleep, unaware of one chilling detail. For the first time in years, Harriet is alone in her room, and it feels like something is about to happen, something that could change all of their lives forever. The next morning, they take Harriet to church, where Father Rozik is already waiting for them. But the moment Harriet reaches the church entrance, she suddenly starts screaming and crying out in terror. No one can understand what's happening or why she's reacting this way. With no other choice, they rush her back to the hospital. The doctors perform another round of examinations, but just like every time before, the results show nothing unusual. The reports come back completely normal. Remember, for the past 20 years, doctors have never been able to prove what is actually wrong with Harriet. Every test ends the same way, with doctors suggesting that she may simply be suffering from emotional trauma. Because no illness can be found, the hospital refuses to admit her. William is completely lost. The doctors don't seem to understand what his family's going through, but at the same time, he can't leave his mother alone in that house. Once again, the doctor advises him to stay with her for a few more days before making any decisions. A heated argument breaks out among the family members, but eventually they give in and take Harriet back home. Now, the biggest question is who will stay with their mother that night. But before anyone can decide, something disturbing happens. Harriet suddenly sits up, leans toward her daughter Teresa, and whispers something into her ear. The very next second, she collapses unconscious. The words instantly fill Teresa with anger. Everyone notices her reaction and becomes desperate to know what Harriet whispered. Wanting answers, the family slowly steps out of the room, leaving a heavy sense of dread hanging in the air. William keeps pressing Teresa, asking the same question over and over. What did Mom tell you? Suddenly, Teresa storms up to him and fires back. Is there something you want to tell me? Have you ever done something terrible to me? By now, both William and Martin seem to understand exactly what she's talking about, but William pretends he has no idea. That's when Teresa finally reveals the shocking truth. Mom told me that you and my wife Lydia were having an affair behind my back. She said the two of you were betraying me together. Is that true? At first, William flat out denies it, but after Teresa keeps pushing him and a heated argument breaks out between them, William finally cracks and admits everything. He confesses that he actually met Lydia long before Teresa ever came into the picture. The two of them were deeply in love, but then Teresa entered their lives, and somehow Lydia ended up marrying Teresa instead. According to William, it didn't take long for Lydia to realize she had made a mistake. After the wedding, she wanted to come back into his life and be with him again. Hearing this sends Teresa into a rage. He can't believe what he's hearing. Furious, he lashes out at his own brother. How could you do something like this? Then a terrifying thought crosses his mind. Wait, what if you're the one who killed Lydia? What if you murdered her and made it look like she took her own life? You did it, didn't you? Tell me the truth. The accusations make the argument even more intense. William and Teresa are screaming at each other while Martin desperately tries to calm them down. But neither of them is willing to listen. The fight keeps escalating. And then suddenly a loud scream echoes through the house. It's Harriet. The sound shocks everyone. All four of them immediately rush toward her room. But when they get there, something feels horribly wrong. Harriet is no longer lying in her bed. Instead, she's sitting silently beside the window. And she doesn't look like herself anymore. She slowly turns toward her children and says in a cold, unsettling voice, "So you finally came. This is what you all want, isn't it? You want me dead so this house and all my property become yours. Well, that's never going to happen. Especially you three. I wouldn't leave a single penny to any of you." Then she looks at Annika. "You're the youngest, so you probably don't know the truth. Let me tell you what your brothers and sister, William, Martin, and Teresa, really did." The room falls silent. Harriet continues. "The three of them killed your father. They murdered him together and then destroyed all the evidence, so everyone would believe he took his own life." Annika is completely stunned. She can't believe her own siblings could be capable of something so horrifying. Meanwhile, William, Martin, and Teresa freeze in fear. William immediately tells his mother to stop talking, but Harriet refuses. Instead, she stares at them with a chilling smile and says, "I'm going to tell the police everything, and you know exactly what will happen to all of you after that. Don't you?" At those words, William completely loses his temper. He starts shouting, "Who's going to believe you? No one will believe a word you say. Everyone will think you're sick. You can't do anything." But then Harriet suddenly smiles and says, "You really want to know what I can do? Then watch." Without warning, she leaps straight out of the window. Everyone rushes toward the window in shock. For a moment, they're convinced Harriet is dead. But when they look down, something is terribly wrong. Harriet is gone. There's no body, no sign of her anywhere. The entire family runs outside, desperately searching for her. How could she possibly survive a fall like that? And if she did survive, where did she go? Panic spreads through the house as everyone searches for Harriet. Then after some time, Annika finally finds her standing outside the church. But Harriet no longer looks normal. In fact, she barely looks human at all. Everyone assumes she must have suffered serious injuries. So William, Martin, and Therese lock every door and window in the house before confining Harriet in the basement, afraid she might harm herself. To everyone else, Harriet simply seems sick. But Annika can't shake the feeling that something far more sinister is happening. Deep down, she believes a demon has taken control of her mother, the very same dark entity that keeps appearing in her nightmares. Unable to ignore her fears any longer, Annika calls Father Rosvik for help. When the priest arrives, William is furious. He can't believe Annika is falling for such ridiculous ideas. But Annika tries to make everyone think logically. How can Mom's medical reports look like those of a 20-year-old woman? And how did she disappear after jumping from that height? Her questions leave Martin and Therese visibly frightened. For the first time, doubt begins to creep into their minds. William still refuses to believe it, but after a long argument, he finally agrees to let Father Rosvik investigate. Now the real question is, what happens next? Father Rosvik calmly explains, "An exorcism is not something to be taken lightly. First, I need proof that your mother is truly possessed." Annika leads him down to the basement. The moment they reach the door, a chilling laugh echoes through the darkness. Harriet is waiting. Then she looks directly at the priest and says, "So, Father, you finally came. Do you really think you can save Harriet now?" At that moment, both Annika and Father Rosvik realize they are no longer speaking to Harriet. Something else is inside her. The demon stares at them and growls, "For years, Jonah kept me trapped. But after Jonah died, I was finally set free. And now, I'm not going to spare anyone." Its voice becomes colder, more terrifying. "I will kill every last one of you." Seeing this, both Harriet and Annika are terrified. Father promises Annika that he'll take the evidence, show it to everyone, and then come back. But before leaving, he reveals a shocking truth. "I've known your father since we were kids," Father says. "He was a wonderful man. He cared about everyone and treated people with kindness. But after he met your mother, he started to change. That's when I began to suspect her. The evil presence around your mother didn't start recently. It has been there for a very long time. Even before she met your father, Jonah was somehow keeping that demon under control. But now that Jonah is gone, The demon has finally been set free, and we have to make sure it doesn't harm any of you." With those chilling words, Father leaves. Annika is deeply shaken. She rushes inside and tells everyone what Father said. Trish and Martin believe her immediately, but William refuses to accept any of it. Still, there's nothing they can do except wait for Father to return. As they sit together, they try to distract themselves by talking, laughing, and sharing childhood memories. But down in the basement, the demon has already started working its dark magic. Slowly, Trish begins to lose control. Rage builds inside her, and she starts accusing William once again. "You killed my wife! You killed her!" Martin tries to calm her down, but Trish suddenly turns on him and nearly attacks him. Then the demon's influence spreads to William. Anger consumes him as well, and he lunges at Trish. Thankfully, Annika manages to stop them before things turn deadly. Once everyone calms down, William finally reveals the truth. "After you got married, I stopped loving Lydia," he admits. "She came to me and wanted us to run away together. She wanted to leave you behind, but I refused. She couldn't handle the rejection, and that's why she took her own life." For the first time, William tells his sister the truth. But something still doesn't make sense. Why were they suddenly trying to kill each other? That's when Annika decides it's time to reveal everything she knows. She explains that after everyone moved away, she was left alone in the house with her mother and grandmother. One day, her grandmother begged her not to leave and finally told her the truth. Her grandmother had once been involved with a secret cult, a cult devoted to worshiping a demon. She was a member herself, but over time, she realized how evil it was and tried to leave. She even attempted to destroy the cult from within. When the demon discovered her betrayal, it came to kill her. After a long and brutal struggle, her grandmother survived, and the cult was eventually wiped out. But there was one child left behind, an orphan from the cult. Feeling responsible, her grandmother adopted that child, and that child grew up to become their mother, Hetty Det. Then everything suddenly clicks into place. Remember the mysterious girl who kept appearing in Annika's dreams? That girl was Jonah. Jonah's grandmother knew she didn't have much time left to live. Before dying, she begged Annika to look after Harriet once she was gone, but Annika refused. She left the house and tried to move on with her life. Yet every day, Jonah's words haunted her. The dreams never stopped. And now, looking at Harriet's condition, Annika realizes a heartbreaking truth. She believes all of this happened because of her. If she had listened to Jonah and stayed to protect Harriet, the demon might never have gained control over her in the first place. Now the truth was finally out in the open, and even William had no doubt left about what was happening. The group came to a terrifying conclusion. There was only one way to stop this nightmare. Harriet had to die. Otherwise, the demon would eventually kill all of them. Annika desperately tried to stop them, but the other three had already made up their minds. They headed down to the basement, only to discover something even more frightening. Harriet was gone. Panic spread through the house. William told everyone to split up and search for her, but Martin had reached his breaking point. He decided he was done with all of this and would go straight to the police and tell them everything. William tried to stop him. The two got into a violent struggle and suddenly a gun went off. The bullet struck both William and Trish, killing them instantly. Unable to handle the horror of what had just happened, Martin took his own life. Just like that, all three were dead. Now Annika was completely alone, and the chilling sound of the demon's laughter echoed throughout the house. She realized that she was its next target. But before the demon could make its move, a priest arrived. He told Annika that before Jonah died, she had given him a letter. In that letter, Jonah revealed that she had spent years protecting her daughter from the demon. As long as someone who truly loved Harriet prayed for her every single day, the demon would never be able to fully possess her. Jonah had been doing that all these years, but now that she was gone, Annika was the only one who could continue it, because Jonah knew that Annika genuinely loved Harriet with all her heart. The priest handed Annika a prayer, but before she could even process what was happening, the demon attacked and killed the priest as well. By now, the demon had almost completely taken control of Harriet and was preparing to kill Annika next. She didn't know what to do. Should she pull the trigger? If she did, her mother could die too. That's when Annika remembered her grandmother's words. Instead of firing the gun, she began to pray. As the prayer continued, the demon slowly started to weaken. In the end, Annika succeeded in saving her mother. But there was a price. She would have to stay by her mother's side from now on, because if she ever stopped praying for her, the demon could return and possess her again. In the final moments, Annika looks at her mother and says, "You're my mother. You're mine and nobody else's." And with that, the story comes to an end.